okay. My head is telling me nothing. It's got nothing left to say. And I was like, eh, 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 eh. Oh, 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 oh. You were like, eh, 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 eh. No, oh, no, oh. I was like, eh, 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 eh. Oh, 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 oh. You were like, eh, 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 eh. No, oh, no, oh. Come on, let's rewind till I smile. That look upon your face. My heart is empty and unguided. I'm blind leading chase. I thought I had a plan with you and me. Was the tale of my own dream, breaking me down to my knees. Oh, I could be all it is you need, 'cause we are trying to find a way to feel. If I could sleep, I'd dream of what we'd be, but I can feel you slip further from me. Oh, it makes it hard to be when you are all that I want but don't have. And I'll run into the sea, follow this heart that escapes me. It escapes me, and I'm lost. Forget me, all I was, and become everything, all I wanted.
Hello, folks, and welcome back for another episode of Retake, our CSGO podcast. My name is Veewake, and today with me we've got Amar Ratnam, the former CS 1.6 legend of ATE, and also the current assistant esports manager at U Cypher. How's it going, Amar?
It's going good, man, and pleasure to be here.
Okay.
I'm quite excited.
Okay. We've also got with us one of, we're kind of flexible about our corporate lingo, but I'll just call him head of CSGO at AFK. That's s1na. Some of you might know him from the various teams he's managed. Some of you might have met his toxic nature in your pubs. And he's going to bring in the CS Go and CS 1.6 insight into this podcast. And that's what we'll start with, Amar. You played back when esports was barely even a word. I don't think anybody said esports. We all just went and played CS 1.6, 1.5, 1.3, even in cyber cafes. How did your journey and how did you start out with Counter-Strike? How did it all begin for you?
Well, it was like anybody else, just bouncing into a gaming cafe.
Mm-hmm.
That was happening things back in the days.
Mm-hmm.
So in my area where I used to live previously, there was a gaming cafe, which is one of the oldest gaming cafes still in Mumbai. It was called Game Space, and that's where I started my journey. I was more of a console gamer, playing games like SmackDown versus Raw. Then when I saw this game, Counter-Strike, that's when I got hooked onto it out there. Start playing college tournaments. Then started attending various events and World Cyber Games, which was the Olympics of esports back in the days, was the most popular tournament, and that's where the journey began. And so I think 2004 I started getting professional at it, and by 2006 we formed this team called AT Gaming, which stands for Accuracy Teamwork Experience. And luckily that year we also had another popular tournament which is called ESWC, the Electronics World Cup. So we won that. We beat one of the reigning champions back in the days, was Acid, and they were dominating the Indian scene for more than 5 years. And then we kind of broke their spree and we kind of took it over, and it just went on from 2006 to about 2012.
Okay. So you actually, you were sort of the new guys on the scene back then. Acid was the known name. Acid had always been around, and you were some of the newer people back then.
Yes, we were newer people. We were, kind of different players from different areas of Mumbai. We used to meet up at tournaments. So we used to compete with each other. And one day we realized that probably, if we play in a team together, we could be the best in India. And that's how, me and my friend Ben came up with an idea where we approached the other better teams we knew back in Mumbai. And we picked the top players from those teams and we formed the team. And some of the players are still playing. Ritesh, he's still playing CS:GO, and you have Impel, who's also playing. So these were the first picks, and Mikhail Mera. So this was the 5 we had.
Okay.
Was the entire team based out of GameSpace itself, Amar?
No. So it was from all different cafes. Me and Ben, you started playing in GameSpace. Then Mikhail and Achu were playing in Private Eye. Ritesh was playing in some cafes.
I
in
know which.
Ghatkopar, like
No, not Ghatkopar. In Santa Cruz. In Net Cafe. He used to play next.
Private Eye.
Okay.
Private Eye. Yeah. Was one of the popular cafes back in the days.
Okay. Because
Actually, I never knew that AT actually stood for accuracy, teamwork, and experience. It was one
So,
name that you came up with.
The A has been kind of, with the media, it's always been changing. Somebody calls it aggressive, somebody calls it attitude. So, yeah, but the true meaning was accuracy for it.
okay. The asli AT was accuracy.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you, I mean, that was a very different time. Like there were hardly any tournaments. I remember the most consistent Counter-Strike tournament that used to happen in Mumbai was the Reliance Zapak tournaments. Did you play any of those?
No, actually, if you go to see, there were constantly 3 international tournaments that were taking back to back in the year 2006, 7, and 8. So we had WCG, ESWC, and Code 5, which used to give us an opportunity to represent India. And then we had national level championships like Reliance Gamebox, Zapak came in. So these were some of the major tournaments. And then we used to always have these weekly Zapak Gameplex tournaments.
Right.
So there were quite a lot of tournaments that were happening, every weekend. We used to organize tournaments ourselves. So what we used to do is we used to go, get up in a gaming cafe, invite about 10 to 12 teams who are really good that time in the scene, and have a small entry fee, probably around 500 to 750, and then kind of give a chunk to the cafe owner, and rest keep it as a prize pot. So we used to make sure that every weekend in Mumbai there should be a LAN gaming cafe tournament.
Wow.
If nothing big was happening.
Okay.
So that's how so there were about 10, I would say 10 Mumbai teams that used to be constantly coming to these regular LAN gaming cafes for these small events even.
Okay. And when you went outside the country and you represented India, what back then, I mean, 1.6 is somewhat, I'd like to say, I believe it's very different from CSGO. Like flashes and smokes have much more weightage, I believe, in CSGO, and 1.6 was more raw mechanical skill. It was more aim based, I'd like to believe. What were some of the big takeaways that you experienced when you went and you represented India abroad? Like, what did you feel? What were we missing back then?
So honestly, I always find this a misconception when people say that 1.6 was more of a raw skill game. Actually, it was not. 1.6 is still well balanced when we compare it to CS:GO, because in that pistols are not that powerful. Okay. So you couldn't turn around the game just purely on aim. You need to have strategies when you are especially going anti-eco or you're doing a force buy. Right. Whereas in CS:GO, it's more of aim. If you're really good at shooting, you could probably just kill people off with the pistols and the blower SMGs or rifles or shotguns. So 1.6
Have you been playing CS:GO lately, Amar?
Yeah, I've just started playing back lately online. So yeah, I've got that idea. So yeah, 1.6 you had to be very strat oriented because it was very tough to win anti-eco rounds or an eco round. So yeah, the challenge back then was more of the exposure for us, because we never used to get the opportunity to kind of compete online with other Asian countries. So, and unluckily for us, whenever we kind of represented internationally, we used to fall in a group where we used to get at least 2 of the top teams who used to win the event actually. Okay. So if you check all our past group stages, the team that kind of beat us had won the tournament, or at least were in the top 3. Okay. In fact, we had a very surprising, kind of a first event, which was at Code 5 in China, where we encountered NIP in our third match, and NIP won that tournament eventually. and we were the only team that was kind of in a lead against them, which is about 5-0 in a map Inferno. So yeah, it was, and when a player like Spawn comes up and he kind of shakes hands with you, who's like the legend in Counter Strike, you know that you have done something right by playing Counter Strike. So yeah, it was a good achievement. The international players recognized us. Whenever we used to kind of turn up for an event, they knew about ATE gaming. People like my teammates like Ben and Mikhail really stood out well in the international scenario. And Ben Raid was the first guy who scored an international ace in an anti-eco round against a US team, which is very popular back then, called JMC.
Called JM?
So Amar,
JMC, Jack's Money Crew.
Okay.
I have a question here, Amar. So, you tell us stories about how you and the team used to do well at international scenes, and we also had teams like NSG that once in a while had good runs internationally. Uh, since
Okay.
that time, since 2006, when you had a good time with international Counter Strike, till now, say till 2016, in the 10 years in between, where did we go wrong? I mean, why is it that in 2016 uh, we haven't had as much international representation as you guys did back in the day?
One is, I feel there's still a lack of opportunity. Right now, players are not kind of getting the LAN exposure for international events. That is very much needed. The mentality right now is to play online much, which is very wrong. Players have to come out of their comfort zone. It's a simple logic. Everybody is good at their given home or given space. So, but you really test it when you kind of go to the other parts of the cities and the world, and you start playing.
How did
That
you
is
guys
when you know your
have
true
better?
potential.
How did you guys have better LAN experience than people today? I mean, the CS players of today have everything that you could probably need, like internet, boot camps, salaries. Uh, you say it, you say it, and they have it. So, what did you guys have that they do not today to do well?
So we didn't have boot camps, and I personally think we don't require boot camps. In a country like India, it's a too early stage, for a team to be boot camping. We used to do some serious practice before a major tournament. Uh, we used to call that a boot camp, where we used to kind of, say, meet in a cafe and probably, play for 10 hours or 12 hours together, but not really, kind of live and stay together. It's a whole different ball game when you start to stay in kind of a one place. You also get kind of isolated once you start boot camping, because in India you don't have that many options and you're not getting that level of players. You only get better when you start playing better opponents. And what we used to do, especially, we used to travel across India even to prove ourselves, to meet players out there, kind of also help them, educate them. We used to make that kind of effort. So we used to always travel to different cities, and we used to also get a lot of invitations from certain IIT colleges. So we used to go and attend these events and make sure we are trying to get up the level. I remember we had traveled down to Hyderabad in 2006 for Code 5. The scene was pretty dull out there. We played in a cafe called Diginet or something. That is the day when I saw Hyderabad, changing, and you saw teams like Invictus coming up. Those people didn't have gears. They didn't have, the thought process. They used to kind of watch international, but it was very tough for them to adapt. You can always watch demos and all, but if you don't find someone replicating it in front of you, it's a little bit tough. So they kind of saw how we used to practice. They saw our gameplay style. They saw what equipments we were using, and that's when I saw Hyderabad, really coming up, and a lot of good players came out from there. And Invictus was one of the well-known teams from Hyderabad.
Okay.
Right.
We've got a couple of questions coming in from chat. Just for those of you tuning in, we've got Amar Ratnam, who's the assistant esports manager at U Cypher. We're going to break down this podcast with him into a couple of segments. We're going to be first talking about his background and his past with Counter Strike, and then we'll move into talking about U Cypher a bit. And then towards the end, Shreyash, we will be shooting him a couple of audience questions. I have seen your question. I will put it over to him. If anybody else in chat has any other questions for Amar, do feel free to shoot them out. But I'm going to move on to my next question, which is, uh, I'm going to break this down into two questions. So I tried to do research on the old ATE, and it's actually somewhat difficult because none of this is really well documented. Could you specifically tell us what were the successes that you have internationally? We know you did well, but who did you beat? Like what were some of the bigger accomplishments that you did manage to pull off internationally? Because HLTV doesn't have much data on this, and I mean, so much of our Indian esports is just in whispers, in cafes ki, अरे एक ज़माना में वो था, एक ज़माना में मैं खिलाड़ी था. Nishan thinks he was a great Dota player at one time, but there's no proof of this. So we'd like to hear from your mouth what is it that AT actually accomplished internationally? How did you all qualify, and what did you all do after qualifying?
So honestly, there's no Indian team that has yet passed the group stage.
Okay.
But the only upper hand we had was in 2007 we beat a team from Switzerland, where we were kind of 11-4 down in the first half, and we kind of made a good comeback, and we won the game 16-12 against them. And then our second match was with the Portugal team called Kick, which is a famous esport organization.
Okay.
And the famous player Fox, who was in between playing with SK Gaming also, CSGO. He was in that team, and we were facing off against them. Similar scenario, it was a very close battle. In the end, the game drew, and that is where the crowd kind of drew attention towards us, saying that an Indian team coming out and beating a tier 1 kind of a team, Portugal was still considered good in 1.6 back then. So they saw the potential in us, and we started getting appreciation from there.
Okay.
We had some good games with Fnatic. When Fnatic had come down to India, their Golden File lineup, we had some close battles about 16-11, 16-12 with them.
That's quite
so good. We have always had a good half playing the international teams. But due to the less exposure that we had, we kind of missed out. But yeah, we had a lot of kind of close games with some of the good teams.
So when you'll beat the Swiss team and y'all got really close with Portugal, y'all got past the group stages into the main event?
No. So then we kind of lost the third match, which was to the US team.
Okay.
And due to the round difference and all, we didn't qualify.
Okay.
Who, according to you, Amar, from your back in 2004 to 2006 times, was the best CS player in the scene, and who was the worst CS players?
Worst, I don't think.
Worst.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Worst is where you get the juicy part. We'll tell us one for each.
Okay, tell us best. Who do you think? Actually, I'm going to twist that question a bit. If you had to pick 5 players from your time that could still come and give a tough run to the current Indian team, who would that 5 be? Like your 5 from your time, who you think, like if you had to do an all-star match in India,
Right.
and we had to pick the legends versus the new, who would your legends be?
It would be the actual first 5 of AT Gaming. That was Ben, Mikhail, me, Ritesh, and Impel. Because we just had a kind of understanding of what kind of role we each are playing, and I think even if we kind of still play today, we still have that understanding that we know blindly what the other guy is going to do.
You know
so
what?
We don't need to communicate a lot.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I'd actually pay good money to see that ATE face off versus Entity Gaming. Somebody should make the show match happen.
Do you guys ever consider participating in the newer tournaments of today, like the
or are you all playing PUBG
and others?
No, I in fact had played last year the Cobex Challenge, which is the Cobex Master Tournament of CSGO qualifiers. I played it with a bunch of local players, and surprisingly we beat TMG, which is a very good team in CSGO. And I think we have the record of having it being the longest match for last year, which went into the 9th overtime, and we won the game. So Yeah,
GG.
that was an interesting match.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nice.
Um, I'm going to ask you another question. Like back then, as a team,
Just coming to Siddharth, you said who is the best player back in the day.
that's a good question.
I'll tell you who are the best players starting from the journey of Counter Strike. In 2000, I knew there was a team from Pune called TUA. The best player was Matt Toothbrush. That this is the era of 1.3 and 1.5. Then came the era of a guy called Storm Blast, who used to play in Acid also, aka Bit2 also, he's known as Bit2. He's still considered by all of the old players in Counter Strike the best player in India still date if you ask. That guy had tremendous game sense and sound sound sense. We still respect him, all the old players. And if you ask me from 2006 to about 2012, definitely Ben kind of changed Raid. He changed the scenario of the shooting level. That guy was crazy. He used to practice about 2 to 3 hours killing 5,000, 6,000 bots back in the day. He had the best aim. And coming to the best in-game leader, it was definitely Mikhail Mehra from AT Gaming, who had tremendous game knowledge.
Excellent. Do you, by chance, are you in touch with any of these old players that you mentioned just now? It'd be great to, once in a while feature them on AFK and, I mean, you tell us they're
Sure,
legends,
definitely.
it's good for the newer generation to know who their
Exactly.
ancestors were.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
do put
in
us in
touch
touch
with
with them.
most of them.
Yeah, do put us in
What
touch.
Sure,
Bitu
definitely.
Bitu had a cafe in Andheri next to Bhavan's, right?
Yeah, he had a cafe called Skirmish.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
Right.
So
I
that
remember
was the
going there.
place where most of the pro players used to hang out. Team MA and Acid used to practice out there. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's where we started going and, kind of start competing with them and we became, good players.
Okay. Uh, I mean, then when you faced off versus these international teams, what did you feel was the difference between you and them? I mean, what did you feel that you guys were missing? You said it was exposure. Like,
Yeah.
do you feel that because of infrastructure you couldn't scrim versus these teams more often, and maybe if you scrim them more often, you put up a better fight versus them?
Yes, definitely. It was exposure. Counter Strike is more of a counter attack game unless and until you don't understand your opponents, what they're comfortable and what strategies they're doing. It's very hard to beat them. So if you just, that's why when you see, the best of one matches in any of the group stages, you see sometimes, lower teams coming and creating an upset to a very new international, to a top international team, because that is, you don't know, it becomes very unpredictable in group.
Fix it. Ah,
I think it
okay.
got disconnected.
Yeah, we did get disconnected, but since
Yeah.
coming back up, so we should be okay. Just waiting for Sid to reconnect. Sorry about that, chat. Discord just doing its thing. Uh, Sid should be reconnecting. Sid? Sid is in the next room. Sid? Okay, Sid's back as well. We're back. We're back. Yeah. Sorry, I think you were saying about what Indian teams were missing and how
Yeah.
counter attacking your
So
opponents.
yeah, it's unless until you don't kind of play them regularly on regular intervals, you kind of you don't know what's happening. So if you're just getting an opportunity once or twice in a year, it's kind of less. So you kind of need to play more against these teams in order to kind of improve your game style, understand their game style, start countering them. So that is something I feel that is still lacking, which could have changed the scenario.
Okay. Yeah, chat's gotten all anxious. The stream did disconnect, but it's back up. Don't worry, it's all been sorted. I'm going to. This is the last CS specific question that I have, unless it has any, and then we'll move into the U Cypher bit of our talk show. I wanted to ask you, what you feel? I mean, you've seen CS:GO back then. You've seen 1.6 back then. You're watching CS:GO now. Do you think Indian teams have become better? Do you think something's missing? What do the Indian players need right now? What's missing?
So definitely, individual gameplay and individual players have really gotten better. But the major problem in India is when it comes to team play, we lack the most out there. Basically, the biggest challenge is we don't trust the IGL. We don't put our trust in that one person. So when it comes to Counter specifically, so and another very important thing is if you're trying to get pro, if you're trying to reach that level, you need to be professional. Right. You have to make certain sacrifices, and you have to be disciplined. You have to follow the practice schedules, and then only you kind of become better. It's purely a mind game and a disciplined game. Back there, when I met the European teams and the US teams, they are very professional and they know what they're doing. So right. It's not like they come in, for just to play for a couple of years. They are serious about it. They do it with a lot of passion, and it's not for the money for them. It's more, about the title. Right now, I find a lot of people in India, kind of hoping to get sponsorship to get better, but that's how it doesn't work. You have to get better, and then sponsors would come to you. So
I'd like to add something there. I mean, on Amar's opinion, I think I completely agree with that. Back in the day, during the times of 8 and NST and the other teams that Amar mentioned earlier, everybody wanted to play the game very passionately, and they used to, like Amar said, get together in a cafe and play the game for the fun of it and for the passion of it. In teams today, whenever I've interacted with them or whenever I had the chance to be with them during tournaments and others, I realized that CS has now become a way for them to earn money more than, or they use it as a stepping stone towards getting better salaries or earning more money, or or trying to aim for the prize pool more than they aim for the destination more than the journey of it. So so I mean, just my opinion on what Amar said.
It's true. So most of the teams, who are forming right now are, based by organizations and monetary. There is no team that is coming out with the road plan, that this is how our journey would be.
Exactly.
It's very important, the 5 players playing Counter-Strike, they decide the journey. We had an understanding. So like myself, I didn't play throughout 80. I played it for the first 3 years. Then I knew that I have to come out because I had to concentrate on other things and personal life. So I came out of it, but I made sure that the other player that comes in is equally passionate and keeps the brand value up and, wins tournaments. So we had changes in 80, and I think, 80 has, in Counter-Strike, had given opportunity to more than 15, players throughout its year cycle. So we had more than 15 players who have played against us, and whoever played against us, eventually we won the tournament. So that's how we kind of, always balanced it out with 80 gaming, and that's why we survived that era of Counter-Strike 1.6.
Go on.
No. Okay, I mean,
I was asking.
Yeah, go.
Okay, I was asking between your time from 2006 when you say you quit and you moved on to personal life, and between last year when we saw you coming back at U Cypher, where have you been and what have you been doing?
So I quit in 2008. 2008 was when I played Code 5. That was my last international event. And, that time the recession kind of thing hit up. Sponsors were backing out, and international events had stopped. And we had reached a certain level in India where there were people who were frustrated playing against us. Tournaments used to happen where they used to not invite us, or probably they used to just invite us to play the final match. So that's when I knew that the saturation point had hit. So I decided to move on, and I moved on to the normal gaming industry. I went on to a company which is into game distribution called Express Interactive. And then I understood the scenario of how the distribution of games happen, across the globe and India. So I was working with them, and they started this retail venture called Games a Shop, which is the first specialist store in India where you kind of just get gaming products. So yeah, I was with gaming, less towards esports, but the bigger, larger subject of video games, consoles, PCs, yeah, the entire distribution system. So today I know, what kind of games come in India, when they come, what is the price point. So if anybody's looking out for, if they want games for cheap, you can just tag me or ask me. I'll let you know.
Okay. So that is just bringing random people into the frame.
That's Rakesh.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, it was a very different time. I mean, that was a time when uh, we barely had money to do anything. We were all college students. There were no organizations willing to pay us salary. Uh, Prize pool was hardly anything. I took part in all those cafe tournaments. I played Reliance Apac. I played all those tournaments. There was hardly any money. There was hardly anything to get from gaming, and
No,
yet
it
we
was
took.
good.
I mean, it was
Good
fun.
that.
We loved it. We didn't do it. I mean, we didn't do it for money. I don't think. I don't
So
know if teams got sponsored, but right now, I mean, everybody's doing it. Everybody's screaming "Hum gamer hai." But yeah, I mean, that was an era of passion, and that's going to bring us into our next segment where we talk a little bit more about U Cypher. I think first
I'll
off,
just add.
yeah, go
I'll
ahead.
just add one more thing out here with the prize money and the salary structure. I don't see that the salary structure has gone very high. Back in the day, we used to get about 50,000. For the team.
What?
Fifty
Yeah.
thousand rupees for, yeah, five guys we used to get. That was like our salary, and then apart from that, gaming gears, land practices, and travel allowance is different. So
Mhm.
I don't see a much hike in the salary. What I've heard is people, kind of earn about 15,000, 20,000 at
Correct.
the max. So
Right.
which
And
is
who were these
not
generous people back in the day that used to sponsor you more than what people get today?
I mean, it's
so.
not
It
more.
was
It's a fair amount, but yeah, who are your
games to
sponsors?
Games to Win, the famous company which creates Flash games, and then it was India Games.
Okay.
So these were the
Oh,
two companies that sponsored us back in the day.
okay.
In fact, we also had rejected Reliance's offer in 2007, and we went with India Games.
Okay.
I see.
So yeah, we had a lot of big opportunities back in the day, but we used to be very selective. That people will, once you start getting good, people just try to come and buy you out. So you have to pre-plan yourself also for that.
Right. Um, I'm going to scoot over to the U Cypher segment of this podcast, and I wanted to ask you. I mean, I think one of your firsts with U Cypher was being in front of the camera with your old buddy from ATE. How was it being in front of the camera?
It
Uh,
was fun. I didn't kind of wanted to do that, but eventually there was not really anybody else who's willing to take up that challenge. So I got that opportunity. I said definitely I'll go for it,
right.
and yeah, it was fun. Interacting with those 84 players out there, with a lot of other people, you and Nishant out there, the shoutcasters and
Yeah.
everyone.
That
So
was also the
yeah, it
first
was
time you really got into Dota, right?
no. So the fact is, I started playing Dota 1 with Nishant in Game
Okay.
Space.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, I used to play Dota 1 a lot. I've not played Dota 2 that much.
Okay.
But
Yeah. And uh, I wanted to ask you if U Cypher was there back when you played 1.6, would you take part in it? Back in the ATE day, if something like U Cypher happened, would you have taken part in it? Or do you think the market was too new
uh,
for something like that?
Uh, interesting question. Back in the day, there was one event that had happened called Games Bond, which is in 2005, I believe.
Right.
Uh, the opportunity was given to a lot of gamers back in the day even. But the problem with a show
Which
like
year was
Games On
Games Bond
was
in? 2000? Which year?
5.
2005, I believe.
Okay.
End of 5, yeah.
Okay.
It was only for Counter Strike. Everybody was eager to participate because it was coming on TV and it was Counter Strike. Personally was invited for that event, but I backed out with it because they were not true to the gameplay concept. They had changed the in-game rules. So yeah, I kind of backed out from that event. But back in the day, if I had U Cypher, I would definitely play it because they were true to the rules. We kept the rules kind of, as per the international format. So I don't think that would have been a challenge. If the game is true as per the international standards, I would definitely would have played it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh, uh, U Cypher season 1 is over. People have said their things on social media, some nice, some not so nice. In your opinion, what do you feel were some of the biggest successes of season 1 of U Cypher and some of the biggest learnings that you took from season 1 of U Cypher?
Biggest success I believe everybody sees in the country right now. The price pools have just gone high. I don't know why, but
Okay.
you see every announcement that's happening. The price pools that are being talked about by major organizations are not less than 50 lakhs.
There are three
So
1 crore
that's really interesting.
tournaments. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so so you see the whole perception of the market has changed.
Okay.
People have started recognizing esports. People who didn't know about esports. So there, I always say this: when you talk to your relatives or someone, you say that you're playing video games. They take time to digest that itself, and then you say that there is esports. Then they are like, "What are you talking about?" So that's what kind of U Cypher brought in when we went in the living rooms. I believe this is the first time at least the families have once in a while sat and kind of seen this show with their kids out there.
Mhm.
And we got in games like not only Counter Strike Go, we got Dota 2, which is one of the toughest things to do on TV. Then we had Tekken 7 for the first time on TV in India, and then Real Cricket 17. So we got 3 different platforms. Everybody now is aware that the competition in esports doesn't only happen on PC, it happens on mobile even, it happens on console even. And there are lots of various games in the competition of.
Tell us something about U Cypher, Amar. Maybe on the sets or maybe in game or some anecdote from the U Cypher sets that nobody currently knows about. Let this be one opportunity for you to share something that nobody presently knows about U Cypher.
Yeah. I mean, not many of those have gone around.
There are quite many.
You can share
There's
as many as you want. We're all ears.
So this is like kind of funny because this happened with one of the teams. I wouldn't name it. So we used to provide food and beverages to the players out there. And one day, one caterer from kind of there was gulab jamun being served as desserts, and apparently he stopped one of the players from a certain team, saying that you're going to have only one piece, which was very wrong on his part. And I'd got several mails, and then we kind of took an action on it. So so there was a big chaos in my office because of that scenario. And the production team had come down and all. We were fighting over one gulab jamun, and but eventually we changed the caterer. We got the things in place, but no other teams faced that problem.
Yeah.
It was one team that faced it, and the other 5 teams always started making a joke out of it. And I think we must have a lot of memes going around it. So yeah,
I wasn't even there on the set when this happened. I don't know this, but I can imagine Ronnie Screwwala opening his laptop and saying, "With regards to Gulab Jamun," on his email.
no. We handled those battles first. Well,
Okay. Uh, I think there were many memorable things happening. I mean, I have to tell whoever's watching in chat because I was there on set. Nothing is scripted. I mean, players are not told to do X or do Y. It isn't scripted like that. A lot of people on Facebook and YouTube were like, it's scripted, it's scripted. Guy, I come from the film industry and I can vouch for this that the drama is not scripted. The drama just happened. It so happens that kuch log आवाज करेंगे.
In fact, now I kind of realize that we should have told them because these players, for the first week was pretty dull. These guys were like very cautious, kind of scared, facing the camera, playing in it. But once they got into the game after the first week, they just went berserk. And I think probably being of MTV, the roadie spirit kind of just came into these gamers and they kind of just went on. And there were a lot of warnings given personally by our management to certain players, to stop and, keep it sports friendly and not on the reality side. But yeah, that is something I think where U Cypher probably had a hit. It was never our intention to put it as a reality show, but eventually what came out, it seemed like a reality show, but it was not a reality show. So moving forward, that is one of our learnings that we'll keep in mind and make sure that moving forward it doesn't fall in that category and we get more of the gaming and true to the esports side of the game.
I think if you're doing a reality show, one thing that matters is TRP. Can you tell us something like how it did on that side of things? Was it doing really well as far as a TV show goes? Okay, I think yeah, wait. Coming, going, Amar. Amar, am I lagging? Sid, can you hear me? Okay, I can't hear Sid. I saw Sid move his mouth, but I can't hear you. I can hear Amar. No, Sid, I can't hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear Amar. I can't hear Sid. Okay.
Yeah. Question.
So yeah, you said it became a reality show. That was not your intention. Maybe it is a show after all. It's not a tournament. It's a tournament that's being televised, so it is a show. And as a show, how did it do? Like, what were the TRPs like? I mean,
definitely, kind of got mixed reactions as you mentioned, but there was a lot of good response also from the non kind of gaming community and the very casual gamers who weren't aware or who were stuck in terms of how they could come out and start competing. So we reached out to a lot of especially the tier 2 tier 3 cities. They consumed our content a lot and they were excited with this kind of a show coming out on TV. It just kind of made it easier for everyone to talk about playing video games and competing in it. So yeah, that's one factor that happened.
Okay. Any other learnings from season 1?
There are a lot of learnings. Basically,
anything that you want to share with us? More gulab jamuns for everyone. We got that. Anything else? Anything else that you guys will definitely think of changing as far as season 2 is concerned, or definitely take a look at once more?
We have planned it out, but at the moment I really cannot talk about it. But yeah, as I said,
give us a hint about what to expect from season 2. Amar. I mean, we've got people here who followed season 1.
Yeah,
one of the reasons they are.
So the biggest
reasons they are here on this stream is because they want to hear about season 2.
So the biggest,
give us something.
The drawback with season 1, apart from the reality and bet what people said, was that the opportunity was not given to the lot of people, as in there were no open qualifiers. As we did it the first season, we kind of did it invitational. And Jor, I would like to just justify first ourselves. We did invitational because it was the learning stage for us. There were a lot of challenges, and we had to invite the people who have been in this scenario for more than 10 years. And it happens in all the tournaments. Today, when you see the other big tournaments, there are always invitations happening. So we use the similar concept for season 1. Season 2 will be an open opportunity for everyone, where they'll get a chance to kind of, compete in the qualifiers. So I can say that we'll definitely have qualifiers, which was our biggest drawback in season 1.
Okay.
A lot of people who, kind of commented negative to us have also written to us that they want to play the qualifiers. So it's just, we know that it's a positive from everyone.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, you spoke of how you reached the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, and you did have reached there. You also, I remember putting out a thing on your social media looking for more players and newer players. Have you got a lot of applications from these tier 2 cities? Have a lot of newer gamers from places that you haven't heard of reached out to you?
Yes, so so a lot of the pro teams have not kind of registered right now because they'll just wait for the qualifiers to be announced. But a lot of individual players, especially for games like Counter Strike, Tekken 7, Dota 2, have written to us, with their stats, what is available probably on Steam or the MMRs and Dota. So they have kind of come out and they've said that they want to compete, they want to, they want a roadmap and they want to form a team. So yeah, a lot of new players have come out. The numbers are not very high, but it's a good new numbers that we have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, I can vouch for this. I go look at the entire gameplay on YouTube, especially in Dota, and I pretty much know who tunes in to watch Dota on every other Indian tournament. They're entirely new people commenting on these videos. So there is some newer viewer base that has been tapped, and hopefully, because of U Cypher, we might see this trickle down into other esports events as well. We've got a bunch of audience questions, but I've still got.
Before we reach the audience questions, Vivek, I have a question for Amar. I
Sure.
want to know, Amar, what are your thoughts on the choice of games for season 1, and can we expect any change for season 2? Do you think CS, Dota, Tekken, and Real Cricket were the right choices in terms of games that should be aired on TV? Or do you think otherwise, and then there's going to be a change for season 2?
Definitely, Counter Strike is a perfect choice. Coming to Dota 2, again, we knew it's tough on to portray on a TV, but Dota itself is a very popular game. A lot of players play it in India, so I think it's still a debate. Should it be on TV or should it not be on TV? But I think Dota has more. It's currently there's a lack of the human element around Dota. The stories lined up in the Indian scenario for it, but I think definitely it is a game that can be telecasted, but there should be a different approach. We'll definitely try that moving forward in season 2. And Tekken 7 was the best, easy to understand. Indians, I think, love wrestling and fighting, so yeah, it was the most watched game, I would say, in U Cypher. And coming to the
Tekken,
mobile games like cricket.
There are a lot of Tekken players in India. A lot. I'm sure a lot of these applications that you got for season 2 would be from Tekken players.
There are, I don't know the numbers.
Okay, so Amar, we're going to do a thing, okay? When you can't answer a question for whatever your confidentiality clause is, you will just say ring a ding ding, hum gamer hai.
Okay.
Okay. Because the audience questions are coming in. The audience is asking some seriously Arnab Goswami, the nation wants to know type questions. So I don't know how we're going to dodge. Anyway, but there is a lot of Tekken player base is what I was saying.
Yeah, and coming to the last game, mobile, which is Real Cricket, there was a big debate, especially when you take a mobile game and when you're trying to broadcast it on TV. We wanted to keep it light because cricket is consumed in India. Largely, so we took that approach, and it's a very popular game in India even. So yeah, we're not sure if we'll continue with that game, but we might have a new mobile game coming in, but probably cricket might also be around. So Yeah, probably
Would you
that
say it did
one.
well? I mean, your thought process behind picking cricket, that India is a cricket-loving nation, did it actually kind of happen that way? Did people really consume the
Yes, I
cricket
think
game
the
content?
casual gamers definitely enjoyed it. Coming to the core, that's where we got a big negative because
Okay.
they didn't feel that it's an esports game.
Hmm.
So yeah, they didn't feel the competition was as high as the other games. But
Right.
when we were at the sets, when we were watching these game live, cricket was one of the main kind of game changers in U Cypher
I see.
for certain teams.
Yeah, I remember cricket and Tekken would often decide which team would get a big advantage in terms of points. I'm going to start moving into the audience questions now, and I'm going to
All
start
right.
scrolling up the chat straight away. We got Shreyas Chedi has been shooting off questions. Shreyas' first question. Right now, Indian players have very low skill group as compared to other Asian teams as well as players. What does he think about this?
So again, as I said, the teams and the players right now in India need to, concentrate less on, shooting and aiming. They need to kind of plan their strategies, improve their game sense, start, watching demos of certain few players of international. Uh, so suppose if you're defending, if you're playing a map like Inferno, you're playing a bomb site B, and you know your position is out there. You start watching demos of these international players, how they kind of hold that site, and then start coordinating with your teammates similarly.
Okay.
So I think more team play has to start happening in India, which is lacking. Is firstly stop getting frustrated if you lose a round. Concentrate on the next round. Keep your uh, frustrations aside during the game. After the game, have a talk about it, but play each and every round seriously till the
Yeah.
game ends, and
So
make
I
sure
actually
that
want
you're
to share an
playing it
anecdote here.
properly.
So last year when I went to Zawi Extremes Land, I was representing BenQ Zawi at the time. I was working for them, and I had the opportunity of watching Vici Gaming play on LAN. And one of the I've seen Indian teams play LAN. I've kind of managed a few CS teams as well. I've seen professional CS teams outside, but I was watching Vici Gaming play, and it was just mind blowing the way they were executing their strats and the way they were talking to each other. So there was this one round on cobblestone when they were pushing the B side, and all of them just knew exactly where to stand, exactly at what time to release their smokes and flashes, without even talking to each other. They just knew that at this timestamp, I'm supposed to do this. My teammate is going to be doing this, and this is the strat we're executing. And they used to steamroll the other team just by knowing just from practice and just from knowing their timestamps and just from knowing what they're supposed to do at what time. And that kind of emphasizes your point of team play. I mean, they were
So it's
they were
about
perfect.
defining the basic roles. So you should always have a default stat. When your strategies are not working out, you should just line up in your default gameplay style, where you know which player is going to cover which area. So these are the some basic elements that the teams need to start building in default
Hmm.
plays. Certain stats for round four, number four, round number seven, what they're going to do and execute. Understanding the opponents is another thing. And if you're trying to be, if you're trying to go pro and you don't have a team currently, you're playing individually. Stop playing with the players who are not interested in being pro. Start competing with the people who are trying to get serious in the game, and especially start. Nowadays mics are used a lot. Back in the day, we used to just kind of shout out on LAN and call the spots. So be very effective with your communication. Indian players lack that a lot. You need to constantly talk when you're playing Counter Strike. You need to communicate each and every second what's happening, where you are, or what have you heard, or what have you spotted. This is where the Indian players lack a lot. We do not communicate clearly to our teammates that what's happening. If you know something happening, you need to tell that to your team because there could be someone else who could have a better game knowledge at that time, and probably he could take that round for you. So you need to be very communicative.
Mhm. I've got another question coming in from Umesh, and you know what to do, Amar, if you can't answer it. What's the viewership statistics for U Cypher? How many average viewers watched it? Also, are there any demographics available for the same?
Uh, as I cannot reveal the numbers right now, but I would say it's in a good state. It's way above the average this thing, and probably in future we might reveal it.
Okay.
Did you hear what he was supposed to say, Vivek? He didn't say what he was.
You were supposed to say ring a ding ding hum gamer. If you can't answer a
I had
question,
an
you
answer to it.
no, you have to say it.
I had an answer to it.
Amar, you have to say it. Come on, it's your show, man.
Okay, so yeah, if I can share you the Hum Gamer music video stats that have crossed.
Well played, sir.
Okay, I have another audience question from a man in my room. And we're all big fans here, honestly. We hum it all the time at work. Is Ring a Ding Ding going to come back for season 2?
Yes, that's an important one.
We love
Sorry,
the
I didn't
video.
get it.
We actually love the video. Is the song going to come back for season 2?
Sorry, could you just repeat the question?
Sorry, we love that video. Is the song Ring a Ding Ding Hum Gamer, is it going to be around for season 2 as well? And if you can't answer, you know what you have to do.
Hum Gamer.
Ah, okay.
No, that's not right. You have to say it with
Arey,
ring a ding ding. Please.
Definitely, there will be something around the season 2.
His answer keeps changing every time.
Okay, fine. I'm going to move on to my next question again from Shreyash. Okay, so now U Cypher is allowing players to apply for it, but we have just 6 teams. Okay, he's assumed that there are only going to be 6 teams in season 2, so a lot of entries to be taken care of. How's this process going to be? I think Amar
So-
partly answered this, but yeah. go on.
Excuse me.
So there'll be a qualifying stage where all the teams would be given an opportunity. So we will take care. The details would be kind of revealed. I cannot again, say it right now, but we have kept in mind that there'll be a fair play competition for everyone.
Okay, so equal opportunity. Everybody gets a
And
shot.
the number of teams would definitely increase
Okay.
to make it
What is
easy
the
for everyone.
timeline like for this year's U Cypher, Amar? When do we start? When does the qualifier start? When do registrations happen?
Again, highly confidential.
No,
Cannot comment.
no.
Arey, but registration information should be
Hum
public
Gamer
knowledge, no?
He said I'm gamer. He said it. He said
Arey, shit. He played that card.
it. Okay. Shreyash is asking a question that a lot of people actually were asking. And I mean, this is such a difficult thing to answer. And I'm also going to try and answer this partly myself. But I think Amar will take over this. Well, the gameplay, what we want on the show is not much. Are the production going to take care of it? More gameplay on TV.
Sorry.
His basic point is he wants to see more gameplay on TV.
Right. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge right now, because we don't have that amount of time slot that has been given to us. We're just working around a 1 hour clock
Right.
for an episode, so it will be still challenging, in terms of showing the whole gameplay. But if you're a gamer, I believe you'll definitely go and watch it on YouTube, Twitch. We have our channels available out there, so the whole gameplay would be available in the digital format for the consumers to consume. But right now on TV, showing an entire match, I think we're still couple of years behind it.
It's
So,
freaking impossible. Just think about it. Because
It's-
I mean, look, every tournament say CS:GO players will come. They'll set up their gear. 45 minutes of warm up. Aim underscore bots will be loaded. Crosshair will be set. And then the game begins, which is another 1.5 hours. Then you have Dota, which is 1 hour 15 minutes. Then you have Tekken. Like it's going to be a 4 hour show. And imagine doing this live. 45 minutes CS:GO players are warming up, and there's literally nothing to show. It's very difficult.
it's that there are those challenges, right? And
I don't entirely agree with that, Vivek. I mean, we do have ESL India Premiership showing CS being telecasted on D Sports. I mean,
It does, but it's only CS, right? This is CS plus Dota plus.
I
Yeah,
would
and
actually say that the average time for duration of a game for CS and Dota is more or less the same.
It's like 1 hour, but CS:GO players take like warm up time, right?
but
Yeah,
is
but
that live? I don't believe so, right?
Is it live?
I no, but neither is U Cypher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
so
live. It's not live.
it's not live. But so the challenge is they're doing it with just Counter Strike itself, and they're just kind of, even if you see their format, what I've seen is they kind of break from in game. They come out to the analyst desk,
Correct.
they talk about it. Yeah, so it's still something right now for the mass consumers. We find that challenging. People are not going to accept that very easily. So that's the reason we kind of are trying to break it down, get the human element story involved with it. And even if for example, let's talk about E-League. What E-League did was really good this year. After their majors, they did a 5 exclusive episodes with TBS where they showed the entire journey, how these teams competed in the majors. They're not just, so they showed highlights of the games, and they also broke down the storylines of each characters. I think that is somewhat approach will be required in India if you want to portray esports on TV. That is the right way of the approach. And E-League has done tremendously well. They've also been kind of nominated in one of the awards out in the US. So I think people should we take our learnings from there. To be very frank, I definitely watch these kind of shows and try to adapt it. So yeah, that is something we should look forward to.
Okay. Another question from Shreyas. Most important, which I want to know, is U Cypher going to be looking for casters? He's applied, so he wants to know if U Cypher is looking for casters.
Yes, we are looking for casters.
Okay. Sat Mayekar has a personal question for you, because I presume you're not reading YouTube chat, but LOL, selecting games is not a piece of cake. You guys have no idea what permission needs to be taken. Tell Amar Sat is saying this. I'm looking for more questions. Okay. Okay, I think that's about it. The audience has run out of questions. We've run out of time. I mean, I could actually keep going for a good 30 minutes or so, but it's already been an hour. Amar is getting anxious, wants to go play the new PUBG map. And really, thank you so much for being on our show. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to be on our podcast. It was a pleasure talking to you and seeing what CS 1.6 in Indian esports was like back in the day. Thank you so much, Amar. Thank you, Sid, for being with us. This is Veewake, Amar, Ray, Ratnam, and Sid signing out.
See you guys.
Pleasure being here. See you guys. Thank you.